Welcome once again to Retirement Designed Differently with financial advisor Billy Voyles. He's the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs. I'm Spike Spengel, and every single week we like to help you with retirement planning solutions. Not just noise of what's going on, but what you need to do about it. Billy, what's on your mind this week?
We're talking today about risks and regrets in retirement. So as we meet with clients, they sort of coulda, woulda, shoulda type discussions. So let's just talk through what they might be to educate those out so we won't make those same mistakes.
All right. Well, the good fortune of tuning into a program with a financial advisor is, yes, we have seen over the decades many different kinds of regrets of people heading into retirement. But with his experience, we can try to help you avoid having some of these regrets yourself. Regrets, right? Not regrets.
Not regrets. Not one letter. No.
Not just one. Folks,
yeah, good movie reference there, folks, for the ones who haven't seen We're the Millers, but, you know. Little tattoo misspelling sometimes that gets in the way.
One little thing that we don't pay attention to can make a big difference in our retirement. Where part of this came out from, actually, if we're going to stay in current events like this, there was a YouTube video done. I forget exactly who the influencer was, but he talked to 70 and 80-year-olds about what were some of their regrets. I enjoyed watching that, so then I started asking you, what are some of the things that maybe you can help people avoid? And you know, that was on YouTube. I know you're big on TikTok, though. Your dance moves, moves for the kids are incredible. But did you see some of this stuff on the regrets?
Yeah, and I think the one thing that is the biggest regret that people come into the office with is that they wish they would have started planning sooner, or they wish they would have started investing sooner. And they come to us, and after they walk through our planning process with them, and they find out everything that they know, and we put a plan together, the thought is, I just wish I would have did this sooner, is the overwhelming, really theme of it.
Yeah.
And know that it's not too late. It's really not too late. I want to tell a story. A gentleman came into our office, and he was about 77, 78 years old, on this path to sort of, running out of money, frankly. He had retired in his 60s, and we had met him later in the game, right? 12, 15 years in retirement already. And he was very concerned that he was going to run out, and there wasn't any sort of options or strategies to get him out. And we came up with a plan that, he had to reduce some spending a little bit, but he had a confident plan forward where he could go about, his life the way he still wanted to, without those underlying concerns. And that was someone who we caught really late in the game. We don't want to catch you at 77 or 78 or 80 years old. We'd like to meet you at 58 or 60 or 62, so you don't have, because if we would have met that guy 10 years earlier, his retirement would have been completely different, right? We would have been able to tackle some of the things that he faced over that last decade and address it differently. So that really is one of the big things, is they wish they would have started planning sooner, and you don't have to wait. That's the beauty of it. You can start now.
Short question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody say to you, I wish I started later?
Yeah, no, that never happens.
It never happens. So it's always wanting to get started sooner.
Yeah.
And you know who that means that we're talking to? It's not just baby boomers right now, because we know that we've got 10,000 baby boomers a day turning 65 and moving into retirement. There's already a lot there. We're talking to Gen X.
Yeah.
Gen X in their mid-50s right now. Folks, you've got to start doing your retirement planning. You've got a 10-year window right now that we're looking at where you can ramp up your retirement, another show that you did recently.
Yep.
Let's get you starting to save a little bit more in there, get the planning done, maybe get tax efficient sooner rather than later. But now, speaking also with retirees, or folks who maybe been in retirement for a little while, what is something else you see as a regret? Spending too much, or perhaps not spending enough?
Not spending enough is a big one. And I think that derives from not really being confident in their plans. And they look at these, numbers on paper, and they look at their brokerage statements, or they look at their 401ks or IRAs, but it is just a number. Right? And they don't know, what is the right amount to take out? How should that and those investments be invested? How should they be allocated in order to deliver them the rates of returns they need for it to last 20 or 30 years? Because that's the big thing, right? You have longevity that's creeping up. You have taxes to consider. You have inflation to consider. You have long-term care risks to consider. I mean, we talk about these things every single week of all these risks in retirement, but if it's causing you to spend less in retirement than you are actually capable of doing so, then it's a problem. One of the best clients that we recently brought on was someone that we met where they had actually canceled a trip that they were going to take for their entire family to go on a cruise this upcoming springtime. And they were going to have a week to really just enjoy their kids, all the grandkids. I think it was 18 or 19 of them total. And they had booked it, but actually put it on hold because they weren't confident at that point in time that they could afford to take the trip. And after working with them and sort of designing their retirement and, you know, putting all the pieces back together with the structure, and we sort of gave them, this is the amount we're comfortable with you spending, this is the amount of monthly income you're going to have coming in, you know, these are the remainder, this is your safety net, you know, that we have for investments for later. Yeah. After we designed this all, they felt so confident that they booked the trip again. And they're going to end up taking the trip and enjoying a week's time, really. And that might be the last time that they can all get together. But without coming in and meeting us, they wouldn't have been able to take that trip.
Yeah.
And being able to give them the permission to book that trip all over again feels really good for us.
So when saying that people are feeling like, oh, I wish I'd spent more, it's spent more on meaningful things. Yeah. Spent more on enjoying that lifestyle. Yeah. Instead of white-knuckling into our retirement, saving all of those nickels. Now, we don't want you to overspend, but I think not knowing how much you can spend is, again, creating a lot of fear and anxiety for folks right now. One of the regrets. Yeah. But that's exactly why you put together the design itself, the fundamental design, correct?
Absolutely, and that's one thing. So I talk a lot about my dad in workshops, and he's ill and he has cancer, and sort of the one thing that he repeatedly talks about is this concept of creating memories, making memories that'll last forever, making moments that turn into memories. And, you know, it's in the back of my mind all the time. So, like, how can we create these special memories for clients? And it's beyond the finances, it's beyond the numbers, it's beyond the spreadsheets of what we're gonna look at to figure out, because we wanna know, like, how and why do you wanna spend your money? When you come into our office, we'll ask the question, what is this all for? Like, what are we saving this money for? What do you want this money to turn around and do for you in retirement? And if you're looking for an advisor that's going to have those types of conversations with you, rather than talking about standard deviation and alpha and beta, and you want to have real conversations with a real advisor about how you'd like to spend your retirement, pick up the phone and give us a call here. 888-379-1846. We have a team standing by to be able to hook you up on our calendars, set you up with one of our advisors in the cities, and walk through the question, what's this all for? We look forward to the conversations with you.
I can't add any more than that. More with Billy Voyles, financial advisor and the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs, when we get back right after this. Call the phone number on this break right now. Schedule your appointment. We'll be right back.
Changing from now being an entrepreneur and running our own business and working with clients, it's challenging, but that's what makes it fun, right? If you woke up and did the same exact thing every day, made a widget, and then the next day you make another widget, and the next day you make another widget, you know, this really, every day is a new day. And every client, all their plans are going to be different. They're going to be designed specifically for them, because you can't create a cookie cutter plan today that's going to fit everybody. That's not how it works. In order for it to be the best, it has to be tailored specifically to them. Meeting with people is fantastic. We love doing events. We do events all over the Twin Cities. I love speaking in front of people and educating, providing people education for their retirements. I enjoy putting the plans together and knowing that it'll set them on the right path that they need to be on for retirement.
Welcome back to Retirement Designed Differently with financial advisor Billy Voyles. I'm your host, Spike Spengel. Today we're talking about some of the regrets and risks of heading into retirement, and with a financial advisor who's spoken with hundreds, if not getting close to a couple thousand different families. We're helping folks avoid what some of these mistakes are. You put on a list here that folks were really regretting not understanding taxes earlier in their lifetime. What does that mean?
A lot of it's related back to the whole concept of Roth. Right, Roth IRAs, and for those out there, don't beat yourself up over this. It is a relatively new concept. I mean, it really only came around in the very, very late 90s, And as far as 401k contributions for Roths, that didn't happen really until the last decade or so. So don't beat yourself up over it. Let's start there. Our acronym is FWD, Fundamental Wealth Design's FWD. So we believe in looking forward, right? We need to create the best path forward for you because we can't do anything about what happened in the past, right? We can learn from it, but we can't do anything about it. So one of the reasons we made the book and wrote the book, To Roth or Not to Roth, was to address this concept of should we do Roth conversions. So folks that come into our office and they're sort of regretting not having done it sooner, again, same thing that we talked about earlier, tax planning is something that you really don't want to wait on now. So there are some things that we don't stress so much urgency around, but knowing that tax laws are changing in 2026, this really is something you need to act on now. This is not something to wait and do later. You will regret it if you do it later.
That is one of the regrets, when we find out what the tax consequences are. And for our viewers out there, it's not your fault. Here in the United States, for about 4.5 decades, everybody, kind of the herd mentality, we've all been saving tax deferred, put money away in those 401ks or 403bs. And that happened at a time, that began at a time when tax brackets were really, really high. But nobody's been talking about over the last 10 years, besides yourself and a bunch of other folks like yourselves who you get together with and you're all working on these strategies to help Americans, is saying that, look, tax brackets have gone down. Why are we still saving tax deferred? So even the concept of the Roth is pretty new, even to a lot of our viewers. Can you explain, though, real quick, Roth conversion? You're saying to Roth or not to Roth. I think we need a baseline of exactly what that account is and maybe what the conversion itself is.
Yeah, so there are two different things, right? There's contributions and conversions. So contributions are ongoing additions to a Roth account, right? And you can, if you have earned income and you make within a certain income limit, you can contribute to a Roth. But we're talking today about conversions. It means you have an IRA, you have a 401k, and we're going to take a chunk of that, pay taxes on it now to never pay tax again. And there are two things that this does for you. One, it starts with tax diversification. So again, you want different buckets of money that do different things. So tax deferred money is not bad. It's just one way of doing things. But tax never again or tax never bucket is, again, not bad, but it is pretty good for the future. So tax diversification is one of the things where we start. If you're already 50-50, you have about $500,000 in your Roth and $500,000 in your IRA, we might not do any more conversions because you have tax diversification. The other thing that it does, and this is sort of client dependent, again, let's talk through your situation, your opinions, your thoughts on where things are going, and then how much tax certainty do you want to have in your plan. If you want a lot of tax certainty in your plan, we get more aggressive with the Roth conversion strategy, because if you're of the same opinion as us, and that we have a significant tax problem here in America, $35 trillion of debt, $1 trillion of interest paid before we even tap into the debt. If you're of the opinion that this is a problem and it is threatening future taxes, then maybe we want to be more aggressive to have more tax certainty inside our plan.
So one of the ways you can do that is with a Roth conversion. It might be a brand new concept to you, so it's going to come up on the bottom of the screen here. A couple of different ways we can get you Billy's brand new book, To Roth or Not to Roth. You can call the phone number or you can scan the QR code as well. It'll take you over to his website. Call that phone number, though. When you schedule an appointment to come in, you'll get a complimentary copy of the book. Maybe Billy will even sign it for you. But these concepts might be new. Feel free to Google it out there. What is a Roth account? What is a Roth conversion? Now, one more thing I want to add on to that. You were talking about Roth contributions. There was another thing that, again, no fault to the viewers out there who don't know, but you might have the opportunity for a Roth 401k. So now there, you need to look into your work plan. There, you don't have the income limitations that you do. Explain that, please. So you can put a lot more in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So depending on your employer plan, but more and more of them are now offering it. And what they're also offering is that you can actually be matched. Your 401k contribution can be matched with a Roth match rather than a tax-deferred match. So one of the things that people bring up to us all the time is like, I wish I would have known this sooner, right? They say that, but then they say, can you educate my kids on all the things you're talking about today. I want to introduce my 28-year-old or my 32-year-old child to these strategies so they can prepare themselves better than what I did. And we run into a ton of that. So this is a great concept to pass to your kids because they're likely on Netflix or Hulu or a streaming station, whereas we're on the regular scheduled programming here. So
you got to share it with them.
You got to share it with them, right? But they can actually be matched with the Roth 401k contribution, which they're paying themselves first more, right? Pay yourself first is a concept that's been around for Rich Dad, Poor Dad for several decades here. But if you already pay your taxes on that money, you're paying yourself more. So the contribution to a 401k is up in the $23,000 range. If you haven't paid taxes on that yet, it's worth $15,000, $16,000, $17,000. If you've already paid taxes on that contribution, you have a full $23,000 that you contributed to your retirement. And you'll never have to pay tax on again. And if you're 28, 30, 32, that's 30 years of tax-free growth you can achieve with that. So for our youngsters out there, the Gen Ys and whatever they're going to call the next generation after that, Gen Z, I guess, they have a great opportunity to get ahead of this tax problem.
Yeah, and the other thing about using a Roth, again, if you can talk to your kids or your grandkids out there, is that if you're starting out at a job in your 20s, you're already probably in a lower tax bracket because of where your salary is starting. So pay the taxes on that lower amount when you're younger. Let that thing grow, and then every single year we can update you on where tax brackets are. But let me also ask you, let's say that somebody's hearing this, they're 58, they're 59, 60, 61, 62. Is it worth it for them, our viewer, to find out if there's a Roth 401k when they've been saving in a regular 401k for the last 30 years? Is 4 or 5 years worth it?
I think so, because when we look at it, if you have no tax diversification in your plan and we go to draw out those tax-deferred assets later, they're going to impact your Social Security taxes, they're going to impact your Medicare IRMA. So IRMA is a income limitation or an income penalty, if you want to call it that, on your Medicare. You can end up paying more for Medicare the more income you recognize. So there's a whole lot of different impacts that these tax-deferred strategies can have. So starting to get some of that diversification so you have choices to make in retirement of where that income is going to come from is super important.
Yeah, and 4 or 5 years, not only are you saving at the $23,000, and we know that those go up, so I think there's already one for next year and the year after that. But then if you're doing the catch-up contributions, you're probably at $30,500 if you're max. You do that for 5 years in a tax-deferred account, not only do you have that money saved itself, but then any of the potential growth that might be in there.
Yeah.
And you don't have to use that right away. Now then you get into a question of, hey, I've got this tax-free bucket. Do I turn on Social Security? Or do I let that grow a little bit? In fact, we're going to have to go out to break. Coming up next, we've got you might need a financial advisor so don't go anywhere. But right now, call the phone number on the screen. Let's get your retirement designed differently. These aren't the strategies from 30 and 40 years ago. For today's modern retiree, you need modern retirement solutions. And one of them might be doing something like a Roth conversion or using a Roth account for the next few years before you retire. So call the phone number on the screen if some of these concepts are new to you or if you've already been doing them. But to also get a complimentary copy of his book, To Roth or Not to Roth, when you dial that phone number, schedule an appointment, we'll give you a copy of the book in the office. Or if you want one right now, you can actually open up your phone to the camera function, scan it over here on the QR code, go right there, click on it, and Billy will send you a copy of the book. More with Billy Voyles, and you might need a financial advisor right after this.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carol and 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there every square. Happy birthday to you. As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion...
have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back. Here with financial advisor Billy Voyles, founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs. Our show is Retirement Designed Differently, and we want to make sure that you design it differently for today's modern retirement. Our favorite segment of the program here, hopefully you're starting to enjoy it as one of our regular viewers. You might need a financial advisor if... What is it this week, Billy?
You might need a financial advisor if you're uncertain about your Social Security timing. We find that a lot, that people regret maybe taking it too early. Or in some instances, they wanted to start it right away because they feel like they've waited too long. So timing Social Security can be a regret too.
Right. To add on to that, we know that today there are millions of Americans who are taking it earlier than ever. A lot taking it at 62, 63, 64, even if they're working.
Yeah.
I think, is this again fear-driven, worried about the reports from SSA.gov itself saying there might not be enough money there later?
Yes, and it's on your statement, so it's a worthy fear, if you will, because on your statement they actually say if the trust runs out in 2033 that they could lower your Social Security payments by as much as 20%. And the average payment for a lot of folks is about $2,500. So if they lower that by 20%, that's $500 a month. You got to go figure out where to make up that difference. So a lot of people are like, if they're going to lower it in the future, I'm going to take mine now. But there are some considerations that you need to take into account. You're locking in that lower payment for the rest of your life. If you're still working, you made the comment, some people we find they take it and they're still job hunting. And then they find a job and they make too much money and they end up getting reduced Social Security benefits while they're still working. But they've already started it and there's no going back at that point in time. That is one thing you want to be aware of. So if you're before full retirement age, which is somewhere between 66 and 67, okay? Anytime before that, if you're still working, there's an income test on Social Security. If you make more than $23,000, they will start taking back $1 for every $2 you make above that. So if you make about $60,000, they could take back $18,000 worth of your Social Security payments. That might be the whole thing.
And so
you're working harder for your money.
Of turning it on to pack it away, maybe even invest it, you're not keeping all of it. If you're working.
If you're still working, yeah.
After the full retirement age, I think you get to be able to keep more of it. But then there's all of this growth that happens after your full retirement age, possible up to the age of 70 if you haven't turned it on. Now, I'm not saying that everybody needs to wait till 70, but it seems like up to 80% of Americans are taking it by at least full retirement age. That means there aren't a lot of people out there letting it grow. The other part of it, though, is that you might not just be making that decision for yourself, you could be making it for your spouse as well. Why is that?
Yeah, absolutely. When he's talking about spousal benefits, know that the higher of the two Social Securities is going to sustain whatever first spouse passes. So when the first spouse passes, the living spouse will get the higher of the two Social Securities, whatever that might be. So if you're taking Social Security early and both of you started it, at 62 or 63, you're locking in that higher payment. And when we run into married couples, we do tend to use a strategy of if they are retiring earlier, if you will, start one early, but then let one defer and continue to rise because, it's likely that it pays out for both lives. The other consideration is just life expectancy, right? We want to make the most informed decision on our Social Security, and life expectancy matters. There's actually one piece of information I need to know to, for certain, tell you when you should take Social Security. And audience, do you know what that is? It happens to be the day you're going to die. And not to be morbid, but that piece of information is what I really need to know to tell you exactly when you should take Social Security. But of course, we're void of that information, right? But what information do we have? We ask about your parents. We ask about their health. We ask about your relatives. I ran into someone last week who their mother was 98 years old, their aunt was 102, and their other aunt was 104. So they had 3 relatives that are on the way to be centenarians on the Smucker's jar in Good Morning America. Well, for her, that's a big consideration. We need to consider this longevity. So obviously her scale slides towards 70, or her husband, we want to make sure he waits at least till 70, because it's likely we're going to get 30, 40 years worth of these Social Security payments.
On some of the higher averages, just to really give our audience some numbers, if you were to take Social Security at your full retirement age, let's say you'd be receiving about $3,500 a month. Very close to that. If let's say you started at 62, it would be closer to $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
But if you waited till the age of 70, based on the earnings that I'm giving as a fake example here, it could be as close to $4,500. Now, that's a big difference in your spendability throughout your retirement years. But like you said, we've got to kind of know the longevity. So for our viewers out there, you got to ask yourself that. Do we have folks who are already in my family living well into their 80s, well into their 90s? It's happening right now. So this is possible. You might need a financial advisor if you haven't turned it on. What if you already have turned on your Social Security? Are there any other ways you can help optimize?
If you've already turned on your Social Security, we might be stuck. That could be is what it is, but there might be other alternatives when it comes to tax planning and strategies that we can take a look at in order to continue to optimize your particular benefit. So there might not be anything we can do with Social Security, but there certainly is with the rest of your investments. And that, again, is why we like to sit down with people, because every situation is unique, every situation is different. That's one of the reasons we coined the term and the show Retirement Designed Differently, because it has to be different for everyone, because you are all so unique and your situations that you bring to us are unique. So if you want a tailored approach specific to you for your financial planning considerations, pick up the phone and give us a call. Schedule that appointment. The number here is 888-379-1846. Or you can scan the QR code, request a copy of the book, To Roth or Not To Roth. We'd be happy to send it to you and then get you in the office to talk through the strategies in the book. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week, but Spike will kick it out.
Thank you, financial advisor Billy Voyles. We appreciate it. Your retirement design will include investments, your risk portfolio, taxes, exactly what to do with your estate planning kinds of conversations, Social Security, and of course, as we've been talking about, taxes and tax efficiency. Your retirement design is complimentary for our television viewers just by calling the phone number. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.